Good morning, and welcome to another edition of Military Monday. This edition is very special, and we have a special guest here, our founder, Ryan Birdman Parrott, founder of Sons of the Flag and Bird's Eye View Project. And we also have Landon, the mad scientist behind all the creations that you see on digital media that we push out. So
I'll take it.
We've got an interview this morning, and the reason that we want to have our founder, we want Birdman to talk a little bit more. If you have been following our Facebook page and our social media here at Bird's Eye View Project or at Sons of the Flag, over the course of the last week, you've seen the 9/11 video that was completely epic. It was one of the most amazing tributes to all of the heroes that lost their lives, all those that responded, all those that still mourn and miss their brothers and sisters today, all the families that have a different perspective on the world because of what happened September 11th, 2001. So we wanted to dive into some of that. We also had the honor of being able to watch Birdman on Fox Nation yesterday, on Sunday, and they had a segment, and it was the Modern Warrior, the 9/11 generation, right? So, Birdman, welcome to the show, to your show.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys. This is exciting stuff. It's crazy what's happened the last couple of days, and it's, I wouldn't say that anything we don't deserve that kind of notoriety, but it's really cool to be able to work so hard on something like this video and to see that it's getting notoriety, because it's all about the FDNY, the NYPD, the Port Authority, and all the survivors and the people we lost on 9/11. So, that deserves all the attention in the world. So it's been an amazing couple of days, and just, opening up our doors to meeting new firefighters, police, people who serve our country, and then hearing unbelievable stories of what the video did for them was, it's incredible. So, I'm always excited, and I'm always nervous when a video goes out that has my face on it, because, I don't think many people like looking at themselves on camera or talking, hearing their voice.
Nobody does.
Yeah, but to do it right for those and honor those, to make sure that it's done right. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, obviously, if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock for the past, since the inception of Sons of the Flag or Bird's Eye View Project, Ryan served 8 years as a Navy SEAL, was a junior in high school, and that plane, the second plane hitting the South Tower, was literally the moment that you made the decision while sitting in class to get up and go enlist in the Navy. Tell us a little bit about that emotion that was really running through you at that point in time.
Yeah, a little more in-depth look at it. I was sitting in a keyboard or typing class, and mind you, I was failing multiple subjects in school. I did not care about school whatsoever. But I'm sitting in keyboard class, and I don't know, for some reason I ended up taking a liking to learning how to type on the computer. And so I just remember sitting at the computer and trying to figure out what the subject of the day was, and our teacher just gets up and runs to the tube TV. I think that's how they communicated back then, was somebody would call their office, they'd pick up the phone in our classroom, and then they would run over and turn on the tube TV, because we weren't allowed to watch TV during class. And so that was the first impression for me, is something's not right here when he's running to the TV to turn it on, because we don't have but cable. We had news back then, in 2000, what was that, 2001, 2000, yeah, 2001. We didn't have any of that stuff. So, September 10th was a normal day where you just sit in your class and you do your job, and if you were not me, and
Everybody else was doing
yeah,
what they were supposed to.
I would pretty much be in there as a ghost. But ultimately, when he ran to the TV, you all knew something was wrong. Everybody stopped and they were looking at him, and he ran and turned it on, and you see New York and you see a Fox, and I remember seeing this tower smoking, and I didn't know anything. I didn't really know anything about the World Trade Center. I had heard I'm sure through my father and mother that the World Trade Center was bombed before, but you just see it on fire and you're like, okay, what is going on here? You know, to me, it just looks like fire. It looks like smoke, and you start listening to it and they're talking about a plane ran into it and you're like, my gosh, that's terrible. It's just horrible. How did they get off track? How did this happen? And I remember sitting there just trying to think through how this could possibly happen as they're giving news updates, and you just see that second plane come in. Everybody just lost. They lost a piece of themselves that moment. I just could not believe what I was seeing, because you instantly watch that plane go in, which means all those people were killed, and then all those people in that building were killed in those specific floors. And we didn't know that at that point in time that those buildings would come down, they would collapse. And so now you're watching this and you're saying, wow, this is 2 planes. This is crazy. Even for me, who is not a scholar, who doesn't know anything, this is not right. Something's not adding up here. And then the newscaster ended up saying this is a terrorist attack. And right then it was like, okay, that's it. I've been messing around with this idea of joining the military for about a year, maybe a little bit less, but I wasn't doing anything to action it. And that was the defining moment for me. Like, okay, you're not going to solve anything sitting here on your ass. You need to get up and go do something. And so I left class right then and there. It didn't matter. I was failing the class anyway. But
didn't miss much.
I shot straight down the hall, ran to the car, and ran right over to the recruiter station in Mount Clemens, Michigan. Walked in, saw my Navy recruiter, or the guy that I talked to once before, and I said, dude, I'm in. And he's like, whoa, slow your roll. And I was like, no, I want to be a SEAL. This is what I want to do. I want to go. And he's like, well, you just can't go be a SEAL, dude. It's not that easy. I'm like, well, you don't even know because you're not one. So let's just figure out what this let's just do something here, make it action. He's like, you're not old enough. You don't have your college or you don't have your GED or your diploma. You need one of those to join. So you're going to have to finish your school. And then you can enlist. But you can enlist in the delayed entry program. And so that's exactly what I did, was enlisted in the delayed entry program. And I would have to wait to graduate, which I did, and then to enlist and go in the military. Yeah, it was crazy. You know, the one thing that I didn't say during the interview on Fox that I wish I would have said was that the coolest thing about that moment when I got to the recruiter station wasn't the fact that, oh, yeah, I ran to go join that minute. It was the fact that I wasn't the only one there when I showed up.
That's awesome. What I was wondering. How many people, when you showed up, my question, because I went into the Marine Corps in 97, right out of high school, scraped by high school. And we were sitting at Fort Bragg. I was in an artillery unit as a radio operator at the time. We were sitting at Fort Bragg. We had just gotten done with a 2-3 week field op. We're sitting there ready to retrograde back down to Camp Lejeune. And back then, you didn't have all the iPhones and everything. So one of the guys had a small radio, and everything on the radio went from music to focusing on what was happening in New York at the time. Mm-hmm. I remember sitting next to Matt Kennedy. His mom worked in one of the 2 towers. I can't remember if it was Tower 1 or Tower 2. The only reason she's alive today is because she had a dentist appointment that morning. Mm. So the conversations, the emotion, to see it firsthand, I don't have any relatives that live in New York, but to see a fellow Marine, one of my brothers, sit there and have that emotion come over him. You just saw everybody surround him with the support, asking everybody else, does anybody have relatives? You know, we did have cell phones, so we're reaching out. And, of course, at that point in time, the network has just crashed, right? All the cell phones, everything's down. But I've never known how many showed up to the recruiting office because of 9/11. Obviously, there was a major influx, but tell me about the other people that you met that day that had that same passion, that same drive, and it was triggered and thrown into overdrive because of what was happening. What was the mood there?
Well, I mean, I don't ever recall another candidate who wanted to be a SEAL going through my recruiting station during the time that I was working with that recruiting station. They were going in for other jobs or rates, And so I couldn't tell you exactly their reasoning for why they wanted to go right then and there, other than I assume it was 9/11. I would imagine. I mean, yeah, if you're there that day, there's 99.9% chance, but I just don't want to overstep because they could have been there for other reasons or legitimately been there that morning saying I'm re-enlisting and not realizing that 9/11's actually happened.
Actually happening. That's
so,
crazy.
you know, it's, but what was interesting to me is our recruiting station, it was, you know, one building with all branches. And so each branch had their own office and each one of them had groups or, you know, kids in there. And that was cool. It's like Air Force, Army, Navy, Marine Corps. Everybody, there was people in each. Marine Corps and Army were a lot fuller for sure. You know, because if you're getting ready to go fight a land-based war, joining the Navy and being on a ship isn't really going to cut it for that. But it's quite interesting to see all those people there and, you know, realizing that, wow, I'm not the only one who, you know, feels like there's something we can do. And then that really made me realize that you're nothing special, dude. And you're just, you know, one of these people who want to go join. And that's what you learn in your career in the military, whether you do 8 years like myself or 20 like you or however long you can knock out before you know, retire, said I've had enough. You get humbled constantly. You realize that there are people who will always be faster than you, stronger than you, smarter than you, more efficient than you, make better decisions than you. That you can't fathom. Guys that are not as in shape as you yet can run better than you, and you're like, I just don't get it because they're anomalies, but you don't know what's driving them either. So that's a huge humbling piece right there, realizing that by the time that I had actually got to SEAL training and had gotten to a SEAL team, we had already lost somebody. Not my particular team, but the SEALs. And that the war was absolutely real, because that's a real indicator. You know, you've heard of World War II, Vietnam, or World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iraq, Afghanistan, all the wars that we consider wars today. And you can read on Google, you know, the statistics of how many were killed in each one of these wars or conflicts. Yet until it becomes a reality where you actually have heard or know somebody who has actually given their life for this country, it's kind of just a statistic and a Google, you know, look. And so getting into the program and them talking to us in SEAL training about the fact that we had already lost one of our own was crazy for me. And I knew when I joined that it was inevitable. Like, we were going to war. That's simply why I joined. It's like, I'm not going to sit here and not do anything, but we're going to go fight. That's what President Bush said. He said that they were going to hear our call soon, and he was right, and we did. And we gave them hell. But, you know, again, you're humbled every single day when you go fight or you get into the military, whatever place you go into. But then the other side to it that's really, really cool is just the unity from all around the country. You know, we saw this major unity the day after 9/11, but that's what we get, and that's what we had in the service. You come from different walks of life. You don't know each other before military, and you instantly become best friends. All of you, like your team. You'll have issues with each other over time because you're constantly in each other's face and you're trying to perform and do your best, but isn't that amazing that you don't know anybody and yet all of a sudden that's all you want to hang out with, and doesn't care what walk of life they come from, what's their background, what are their belief systems. It's like, I know why you're here. You joined, whether you joined to fight during 9/11 or you joined after or before, you joined to be a part of the military because your one mission was to serve the nation. And that's exactly what we are on. We are on one mission, all on the same mission, that's bigger than all of us. That's what America can learn a lot from as a civilian. And, you know, I still try to reinforce that fact to corporations that I talk to and just to people in general and kids. You know, what makes you happy? What motivates you? What's it like being part of a team, especially to children, asking those questions. Why do you like being part of a team? And I find myself today because of the military. I played team sports growing up, but the big thing for me was after joining the military and serving on a team, I don't know how to operate without a team. I can't do it. Nothing gets accomplished by yourself. Nothing. You always say if you want it done, you go get it done yourself. Sure, you can get things done, but the overall accomplishment of things, like how many people does it take to put Sons of the Flag together? How many people does it take to put Bird's Eye View Project together? It takes a group of people collectively working towards a goal to make it happen. And at the end of the day, unfortunately, there's a person that gets credit for it. And most of the time that's unacceptable because it takes a team. The team should always get credit. So there's a lot of cool things that came out of the military, but 9/11 in particular, it changed every one of us in the country that day. And some chose to become firefighters, some police officers, some joined the military. Some just worked a little bit harder than they've ever worked in their life to continue in living and to do the best they can to honor those. But it changed everybody. And that's what I said in that interview, too, is that I lived in Detroit, Michigan at that time, or just a suburb of Detroit, when 9/11 happened, and I felt like I was part of New York. I think we all felt like we were part of New York, or at least we had the biggest heart in the world for a state that was not our own, you know, and we were all ready to answer a call. We just needed word on what to do. So, yeah, it was quite a deal.
It's like stepping up for one of your brothers. I mean, we were attacked. Our homeland was attacked, so it didn't matter what state you were from. We had a united goal of not sitting back and just allowing someone to come in and do that to anybody in the United States.
And so you go and sign up, you do your tour, you come back to Texas, and in the video, what you know, it's incredible to me that you hadn't been out there before. You hadn't seen Ground Zero. You hadn't visited New York. I mean, it's a massive part of your life, this incident, and yet you hadn't visited there. You hadn't been able to. And then you get to go back with, like you say in the video, the red carpet kind of rolled out for you with some incredible names from the FDNY, Port Authority, NYPD, and Lee ILP there. I mean, how did that come about? How did you go from, okay, now I'm going to visit, I want to go see this place, and I need to have this experience?
Yeah. So I had never been to New York ever. And obviously that made me want to join the military and fight. And I did 8 years in the service, and then I got out and moved to Dallas. And one of the first people that I met in Dallas was a firefighter from Dallas. His name is Nathan Pilcher. He's so epic in the best and the worst ways. He's just like, he's like a brand new garbage truck. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool to look at, but you know what it's about to do. So it's just so funny. So Nathan is one of my best friends. He's my best friend. He was my best man at my wedding. And so basically, we started talking. And he's like, he's got a country accent. So you's a Navy SEAL? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, wow, that's cool. And I started talking about my grandfather, who was a Detroit firefighter after World War II. And he goes, well, I don't care about any of that Navy SEAL stuff now. Tell me more about your gramps. He's a firefighter? That's cool. So we hit it off right away. And just, I was by myself. I knew nobody here, and we'd hang out all the time. And so I would go hang out with him at his firehouse. And this was before Sons of the Flag or any of the charity stuff that we've started was even in action. It was just two guys hanging out, and I would go see how they actually worked as a fire team in the house. And it was really cool to see. It just brought me back to what we used to do. They live together, they fight together, they eat food together, they clean, it's the same routine. And so I felt at home there, and they welcomed me in. So when we started Sons of the Flag, that's when they started laying out all the, here's this team, here's this group, we need to go talk with them, we need to get you introduced to here, I need to introduce you to my buddy Johnny Walters. So he's really dear friends with a guy named Johnny Walters, who we've been pushing really hard here, and has been part of the Sons of the Flag and the Bird's Eye View team since the beginning of both charities. Johnny Walters was FDNY firefighter, always wanted to be one, and became one. Was at Squad 288 when 9/11 happened. And he lost all 19 members of his firehouse that day, all his brothers. And I had heard this story, and I didn't know the difference between a rescue company and a squad and your fire, any of these terms. I didn't know what they meant. And so I was like, cool, firefighter or fireman, And then so he comes out. I'd never been to New York, and he comes out to Dallas, Texas, and we hang out because he is a huge diehard Dallas Cowboys fan. We go to a game, and we're standing next to each other, and we're talking. And, he's about 5'0", and he's that little tiny dog that barks a lot. And he's just a total New York accent. He's funny. And instantly just, a person that you want to keep forever. So we became really close, and then when we started Sons, he started introducing us to some of his brothers in the FDNY. So he introduced us to Jeff Cool from Rescue 3, introduced us Liam Flaherty of Rescue 2 and Rob Weedman of Rescue 2, and it just started to go from there. So now while we were working on trying to figure out what Sons of the Flag look like, you know, we adopted all these guys from New York, and then they're always like, hey, you got to come out here. You got to come out here. And I was like, you're right. I do. I have to get out there. And it just, we were so head down on trying to focus on our charity that we never got a chance, or I didn't make the opportunity happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, one of my associates one day just said, hey, we need to go out there and we need to do this thing right. You know, let's go honor them. And I was like, roger that. You're right. And so it was 15 years after 9/11, 2001, that we made our trip to New York. And that was the most nerve-wracking trip for me. It was more nerve-wracking for me to go there than in my first deployment. And so we landed in New York, and of course I already felt like I knew New York just from seeing movies and TV. Like, it's people walking around saying "piss off" and all that stuff, and food carts everywhere, and just, you know,
that southern hospitality.
Yes, and the cabs,
goes out the window.
cabs honking at you, and it was like, yeah, this is exactly what I pictured it to be. This is cool, and it's so massive, right? And yeah, it was crazy because all I could think about in the back of my mind was going to Ground Zero, and we did get there for a couple days. We did not actually go to Ground Zero for a couple days, and so we were just going from firehouse to firehouse, meeting with their groups and talking with them, getting to share stories, and it was surreal. And just, you know, in this mini documentary we made, you know, going to each firehouse and seeing their memorial, it's nuts. You know, there is a memorial on every wall in every firehouse, and I don't know if they've created new firehouses in New York since I was there, but for sure every firehouse that I went to while I was there had a memorial. And that's crazy. It's chilling, it's sobering, and it's them telling you the stories of these people, not just the story of how heroic they are, but they'd be telling funny stories of how they mess with them as new guys, and just to make that real human connection, just understand they were just humans, even though they were heroes. And so it was just bittersweet, and it just built up more and more of the emotion to me, where by the time we actually got to Ground Zero, it was, I was like on the verge of crying, you know, the entire time. I did cry all day long, because it was just 3,000 people, 2,977 people. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy.
Well, it's like you say, whenever you walk up, and because I remember visiting before there was the memorial there. I mean, they had everything around. You could see the wall and stuff like that. This is 2004. And you go and you see this hole. And you say in the video, I mean, it's a graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this is. I mean, explain that, like, your first thoughts when you see this, I mean, this hole. I mean, because that's where it was. That's what people fell into. That's where the lives ended.
Well, I'll backtrack. Before I went, just as we were getting ready to walk up, you start to see, like, the firefighters will point out to you certain things that the city's done to actually memorialize and honor. So before you even get to Ground Zero, just on the outskirts, you'll see, you know, murals on the walls, and you'll see part of the steel that's actually built on to one of the walls. And so they were pointing out these little things that the city will put in place that will stand the test of time. So we're getting that, and then you just walk into this, you know, you're looking up and you see that Freedom Tower, just a peek of it, or you see the whole thing, whatever it is. And it's this massive building, but it just looks like a skyscraper to me. Mm-hmm. Because that's not, you know, what I was there for. And then you just look down and you're just, holy cow. And it just, the minute that I saw it, I immediately thought about rubble on top of it, and what it must have been like as a firefighter, police, and those men and women standing there on top, knowing that the brothers and sisters were trapped. Some of them were killed. A lot of them were killed. And that they were going to work day in and day out. That is their that is their only job from now on until this place is, until everybody's recovered, until everything's cleaned out. That was their job now. Wasn't going to fight fires anymore. It was the recovery effort. And so I basically tried to put myself in the shoes of standing there in that chaos and just looking at it, say, how did they do it? And yes, it is a graveyard. That's exactly what it is. They've made it into a beautiful tribute. It looks beautiful. and it memorializes. I mean, one of the most impactful things after we were done filming, we were looking at the names on the North Tower, and there was a specific woman, and it said, and her unborn baby, and her unborn child. And as much as I cried over it, and it's hard to hear, I was so proud that somebody said, let's go ahead and honor that child as well.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It was so powerful to me. And so, the thing that pissed me off is it legitimately is a picture taking place. Now, yes, we brought a video crew, and we wanted to tell this story and highlight it and do it right. But I'm not out there taking selfies of myself, and that's horseshit. This place deserves respect. And what I mean by that is we need to make sure that all our schools are bringing their groups of kids. They train them, they take them to D.C., and that's perfect. That's awesome. They need to know everything about the foundation of America and where our laws come from and who's leading our country. They do need to know about 9/11, and they need to go there. And it's ridiculous. The school is not there to make you have fun. It's there to teach you lessons, to grow up and become an adult so you can actually fend for yourself, because life's not easy. Taking them out to New York is not a big deal. It is a huge deal, but it is not so hard for them to not be able to do it. And so I think it needs to become part of every school district's, plan of, we're going to go to 9/11. We're going to show these children. Yeah, it's cost. Talk to the parents. Make them pay for it because it's the right thing to do. And send them on a trip to go see and honor, because it is powerful. And then you go through the tribute center and you meet Lee Ialpi. And just meeting Lee Ialpi. Johnny he didn't tell me a whole lot about Lee. There was a couple jokes about him just looking like one of those foreign generals that has medals from the bottom of his neck all the way down to his, kneecap. And that's what they always used to call him, racks or whatever. They call him stacks or something like that, because he was just all kinds of medals from the FDNY. And he was also military, and he was decorated there. And you meet him, and all he wants to do is just grabs you and gives you a big old hug, and he makes you feel like you're special. And that is just mind-blowing. He lost his son on 9/11. And still to have that passion to continue to tell the story and to, just be proud of FDNY and not lose yourself in that, which I'm not saying what he went through wasn't horrible, but he is just an incredible human being. And to be able to walk through the tribute center and learn what he knows and what he actually experienced, that's when I said, I told him myself, I said, it's taken me 15 years to get here, but the moment I got here, I knew everything that we did was worth it. Not that I didn't know that was worth it when we were fighting, but I felt self-fulfilled that, I'd signed up, 15 years ago, 14 years ago, whatever it was, 14 years ago, at that point in time, to join the military because of 9/11 and went overseas to fight, that it was worth it. And that was really, really cool to me. And to be able to say that to them too. I mean, we look at each other with mutual respect, right? Military loves fire. Fire loves military. Mm-hmm. We always try to support each other. And so for them to give us all the credit, like, hey, thank you so much for going and answering the call, I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah, we went overseas and we fought and we did our part. You guys are heroes. You guys are amazing. And people say that word's thrown around too easily today. And it is. Not everybody's a hero in this world, in this country. Not everybody gets a blue ribbon. But those firefighters, they're absolutely heroes. You lose your teammates, and then you go continue to do the job where you're going to be remembering them every single day, see their names on the wall, and remember those times yet not be able to fight with them anymore. It's tough. It's very difficult. And for them to continue to do it because they love the job and their country so much that they will continue to do it, that's everything.
One of the things that jumps into my mind just from my career, so I did 2 trips to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan. The 2 trips I took to Iraq, I was with the infantry battalion, 3rd Battalion, 2nd Marines. And, you've got a 1,200 person battalion, right, that I'm a part of. The largest loss of life that we had in a single battalion that I was a part of was, I believe, 14. And to hear and to watch the video when you speak about the memorials and the walls within those firehouses, because the closest you can come to that brotherhood in the service is obviously that brotherhood in the fire service, in the police and law enforcement. That's why a lot of military get out and they join the fire departments, they join the police departments. But to fathom, they don't have 1,200 firefighters in every firehouse or any firehouse in the nation. To lose 19 of your brothers, I'm still trying to wrap my head around what Johnny and all of those guys had to deal with and still do their job.
You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice, right? You got brothers that are missing, so you're gonna run there, and you're not leaving. So they say they put on their clothes and they went to work, and they didn't stop for 6 or 9 months. You don't have a choice till everybody's found and recovered. You
Absolutely.
just go, and that's got to be a very difficult thing to do because you're not going to find everybody, and at some point in time, you're going to have to say, "We did as best as we could," even though for anybody who's a fighter knows that you can always do more. And that's hard for us to swallow, that pill to swallow, to say, we done good here. There's still, Lee ILP, if everybody listening, do yourself a favor. Make sure your children know about 9/11 and make sure that at a point in time from the time that they can actually comprehend things up until 18, 21 years old, make sure you get them out to New York and do the tour, go to a firehouse and shake their hands and ask a couple questions, and make sure that your children are learning this stuff. We have to continue on. They have to continue their legacy. You have to teach your kids about this stuff. It's vital to America. When I wrote the book Sons of the Flag, I made sure that we included FDNY in the book. It was all about the last 100 years of service in the military. And then we have 2 firefighters from 9/11, Johnny Walters and Rob Weedman, because that was the first war in our current time. I feel like it was a war on our soil. It was horrible. It was a huge attack, and it just sent our entire country spiraling into a war. We had to go and make a massive effort to clean that place up and rebuild. Yeah. So make sure your children know about 9/11 and take them out there and see it and learn from it so you can understand the real things that transpired, the statistics. You got to know this stuff. It is vital because there's a lot of things I didn't know. I was trying to do some research, but what do you look on? You look online and you can only see so much. You can go to the Tribute's website, 9/11 Memorial as well, and you can look through this stuff, and their stuff's accurate. And so you can study this stuff, but you're not going to know until you get there and start talking to people. And that's when it gets it's taken out of context at that point and put into reality where you're like, wow, oh my gosh. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Well, and it's crazy how soon, everything is. One of the things that's hardest for me is our short-term memory. As Americans, as humans, we have a very short-term memory. And one of the things that I always pay attention to, whether it's in the video, whether it's our just daily here in the office, whether it's seeing you on Fox, and the more conversations that I see and hear you have, one thing resonates with me in this area is the lessons learned and how critical it is for our nation to truly understand our history and the why behind these memorials and what they actually mean, because it's not just 2 holes in the ground. It means something different to everyone, but how critical it is, just like you said, every person in America. It's not like you have to fly to Hawaii to go see Pearl Harbor, which I can understand. A lot of people can't afford that. However, how hard is it to save for a couple years and take your family out there and really give them an education that they're actually going to be impacted from?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look around and our country has all kinds of issues right now, right? But we're still the greatest country on this planet. But
Fact.
we lose that. We start chipping away at it generation after generation if we don't honor and remember and study and truly understand and appreciate the sacrifices of those that came before us.
What it took to get here.
And that's the legacy that we instilled in as a drill instructor. We instilled that into the recruits that were earning their Eagle, Globe, and Anchor in that 13-week period and going through that transformation. We instilled the fact that you don't say I, me, or my anymore. You're a part of something greater than yourself, and you have to earn that. And that's something that every American, if we didn't talk about World War I, if we didn't talk about World War II, if we didn't talk about Korea or Vietnam, then that's when it's all for nothing.
Yeah.
Because we've lost so many amazing Americans. And 9/11 is right here. You don't have to go to Germany. You don't have to go to Japan. It happened right here in the United States. And you're right. It's critical for the school districts to be able to say, this is a priority. This is something that's obtainable for us to be able to facilitate. But it's critical for our next generations to truly understand. If you think about it, a lot of the kids running around today, they weren't born.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when they see, I was sitting there hanging out and my girlfriend's daughter goes, we were playing the video and Shay and I were sitting there and Lexi was like, Mommy, what is that? And we had to have a conversation because she's 9 years old. She's watching something that she doesn't understand, can't comprehend yet, but it's something that gets lost from generation to generation unless we're very intentional about honoring those that answered the call, the families that answered the call. Just in the interview that we did with Joey D, he was retired.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, he's helping at Ground Zero, and he's making the call to all the families, the notifications, which that service never ends.
Yeah.
And the burden to carry, it needs to be shared. And you're not going to get, it's one thing to read about it, it's one thing to hear about it in school, until you feel those chills going up and down your spine, the hair on the back of your neck stand up because you walk where it actually happened. And I
think it's one of those deals where you talk about in the video, Johnny was off work. And like those guys got the call and they went. And there's a great picture. I wish I knew the gentleman's name of a firefighter. His engine is stuck in a tunnel and he just gets off and
runs.
He runs.
Yeah.
And that was the last picture taken of him.
Yeah,
he was off that day. He was off that day.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going, this guy heard the call, made the choice, knowing he might not come back, knowing he probably wouldn't come back.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was very fortunate to go there in 2004. I was very fortunate to have a father like I do that wanted me to understand, that wanted to show me the newspaper clippings, that wanted to talk to me about it, because he knew, he was up in New York multiple times. He travels all around, and he's like, I knew people out there.
Right.
And it's one of those deals where it drives it home. It tells you this was a real thing. This is what really happened. These like you said, they were heroes, but they were real people. They had lives, they had families, they had friends, they smiled, they laughed, they cried, they were part of our society, and to drive that home. And now in the video, Bird, you recorded this in 2016, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So, it didn't come out for a couple of years, and I think right now is probably, I couldn't think of a better time for it to be released. Because right now we're in a very tumultuous situation in our country where our first responders are catching a lot of flack. The fact that some firefighters go out to a fire and they're getting shot at, they have to wear vests and things like that. I mean, and the video drives home that these are people that are willing to get out there and risk their lives each and every day, They don't get a break, like you say. In the military, you get a break. They don't get a break. It's every 2 days.
That's
you know?
right.
Tell us a little bit about the summation of that video. What you wanted to drive home with it.
Well, it was quite easy for me. I wanted to make a video. So Lee Ielpe, when we were there, he was telling me that if you look in a children's textbook right now in school, you'll find a little blurb of it in the book about 9/11. That was in 2016. And so if we have already made it a point to not share this information with children because of whatever reason, it's too graphic, well, so what if it's too graphic? This happened. People were murdered. This needs to be told to children of why we live in the greatest nation in the world, why we continue to have a great nation, is because people will step up. I can't fathom being a firefighter running into a building. Now, I don't know anything about being a firefighter. I don't know about structures and collapse and all that stuff, so I would assume that me running up to the top to try to help put that fire out that was my thought, right? You go up to where the fire is, running all those stairs in bunker gear, got to be fun. But that's what I'm thinking, not being a firefighter. You're going to run up to the top. You're going to aid with the team. You're all going to work collectively to put that fire out. And didn't even cross my mind that the building could collapse at such a big building. And then just, boom, both of them gone. I mean, it's just, so what did I wanted to do? I didn't want to fuck this up. I wanted to do it right. And we went out there, and because Lee Ielpe told me that that was the smallest piece of the textbook was 9/11, I wanted to make sure that we were doing a 9/11 video to honor those that can be used forever. It's laid down. It's out there public. Everybody's using phones today. Everybody's doing social media, and that it's a way for some more content. There's plenty of great stuff for 9/11, but I just wanted to throw our piece in there to say, hey, this will always be. Secondly, we went and I made sure that we did interviews with Johnny Walters, Rescue 1, Squad 288. We did, and went to these firehouses that they served at too. So we went to Squad 288. We went to Rescue 1, 2, and 3. Went to multiple other firehouses. Liam Flaherty of Rescue 2, the captain of Rescue 2, and then one of his brothers, Rob Weedman, who's a dear friend. Interview them, get them on, talking about, Lee. This is the cool thing. Liam is super, super rad. He's the president of the Pipes and Drums in New York City. He's super cool. He's totally a firefighter, and he's a man's man, right? And we were sitting at dinner one night, and he's just happy. And I was like, what you happy for? And he goes, man, are you kidding me? I get to do the best job in the world every single day with my brothers. You can pinch me. I mean, that is just
That's awesome.
super rad, right? So we wanted to interview them and let them say exactly what they wanted to say. There was no script here. It's all non-scripted, right? You go up there and you're like, you say what you want to say. Throw out what you feel you want to be said. Jeff Cool, Rescue 3, went over to Rescue 3. Tell us your take on it, because everybody's take was different. I don't know that they all knew each other very well during 9/11. May not even known each other, some of them. So that's what I wanted to put together, is what this was like. And then Lee Ielpe walking through the tribute center, when he told me that piece about the text, I was like, okay, share whatever you want, brother. This is going to be laid down. So that's what we did. We captured, and then we released. So a little bit of editing just to make sure that, everything was done right. And then we released it. But it took me years to want to release it, just because you get it right up to that point, and then you're terrified. Like, what if FDNY hates this? What if the families see this and they're like, this is poor. This is piss poor. This is not, I don't want to see this. That's scary. And that was scary enough for me to hold back on it. And then you look at today, 2020, just a couple days after 9/11, where we stand as a country and how separated we are, how, it's sad and it's silly.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the absolute perfect time for us to release this, just to say, hey, let's all stop bitching. Let's all stop thinking inward, and let's start thinking outward. And then let's remember. And so while everybody's going to put their piece out on 9/11, everybody's going to tell their piece of it, their story, make their video, whatever it is, this is our time to give it, and just, we'll see You know, like all I cared about with this whole thing was, did we do it right for the FDNY, the NYPD, Port Authority, and all the families? As long as we're getting a thumbs up from them, then I've achieved our goal.
Absolutely.
And from now on, it's going to be out there forever. So you can promise you that my kids are going to make those trips. They're going to see 9/11. They're going to understand the stories. They're going to see this video. And, you know, if I go to my kids' school and I find out they're not teaching this stuff, there's going to be hell to pay.
Good.
Good deal.
Good. I love it. Well, we appreciate it, Ryan. It obviously, you know, you get pulled in a lot of different directions. You've got a lot of different things going on. You know, hearing your story, it is truly inspiring. It really is, because it's very different than a lot of different individuals. My story is different than yours, you know, different than Landon's, and whether they served in one of the firehouses or in law enforcement, the military, or they served by supporting one of those, right? Support. I mean, I tell people all the time when they say, well, you know, I didn't serve. No, you don't have to wear a uniform to serve. All you've got to do is support those that are. Make a difference. And it doesn't have to be some profound, life-altering deal. Just show up.
Yep.
Just show up and show your support. So
Show up, share, like.
that's why we wanted to push that video out.
Yeah.
And you can go to Sons of the Flag on Facebook. You can go to Bird's Eye View Project on Facebook.
Visit our YouTube channel.
And you can see it. And our call to action is help us continue to share that video. We've already passed 9/11. But the most frustrating thing for me is the fact that we tag it with these bumper stickers of never forget. And then the 98th percentile of this country, once the day is gone, okay, we won't think about it again until next year.
Yeah.
But if everybody starts thinking of it and thinking of the sacrifice, and they start thinking about being a part of the solution, something bigger than themselves and not their own agenda, look how amazing this country is when we all have a singular focus, because 9/11 was proof of that. Not just the day of, not just the months after. Everybody came together and showed it didn't matter where you grew up, if you were rich or you were poor, if you were black, white, brown, purple, yellow, it didn't matter.
You were an American.
You were an American. And we weren't going to allow, or we weren't going to dishonor any loss of life, regardless of who they are or where they came from. Right was right, wrong was wrong. We got punched in the mouth, and we went and took care of business overseas, while those that were here on the ground continued to work ground zero, do the recovery efforts, and honor all of those individuals. Not just the firefighters, not just the law enforcement that were lost, not just the Port Authority, but all of the innocent victims that lost their lives. Those souls need to continue to be honored. And so we urge all of you, go to one of the links, push it out, watch it, get involved. Making a $10 donation, everything that we do is geared towards honoring and serving. You know, there's a lot of heavy burden, and a lot of people talk about the veteran suicide rate. Imagine the burden that these firefighters still carry today because they lost 19 of their brothers.
Yep.
And that they worked with, much less how many other friends from the other firehouses that they have to sit there and wake up every day and go, my brother's not here, my sister's not here. So that's the organizations that Bird's Eye View Project supports. We support our military, we support our law enforcement, we support our firefighters, and those organizations need for us to remember.
Yeah.
COVID can't be the end all be all, and because just because COVID's here doesn't mean that the mental anguish and the PTS that all of these individuals have go away. It gets worse.
Yep.
So we need people to get involved. That's what you can do, and that's how you can serve, by getting involved and remembering and honoring those that sacrifice so much for us. So definitely appreciate having you on, Birdman. It's always a pleasure. But just really, it's been a powerful week. It's been a very emotional week. Obviously, it's been a very exhausting week for you, being all over the place. But one thing that everybody knows about you, whether they've met you for 5 minutes or known you for years, is the fact that you've dedicated your life to serving our country and preserving and pushing the legacy of all of the American heroes, regardless of what uniform that they wore, and making sure that our kids are going to grow up and understand the history and what's truly important and what really has made this country great. And I can't be more proud to be a part of this organization and call you a brother. There's not many people that dedicate their lives, even after their service, to continue to drive this forward, and it's huge.
Yep.
It's huge.
Well, freedom.
America.